So you've seen it in a couple of our videos, and you're asking yourself, what the heck is that? This is the Pigeonrat. Now obviously, this isn't the typical vehicle for us here at Uintagarage. So let me tell you how we ended up building this crazy car. We built this to run the Gambler 500 with our friend Sean. For those of you that don't know, the Gambler 500 is about taking cheap, impractical, or just fun vehicles out into nature. Pick up some trash, have some fun, don't be a dick. That's the model. With only a few months to go before the next Gambler, we started looking for a vehicle that we could build. Sean was planning on building an AMC Eagle, which sounded like a lot of fun, so we started looking for one too. Unfortunately, we couldn't find one in our price range. In keeping with the Gambler 500 spirit, your vehicle is supposed to cost around $500 or less, and of course, be crazy or interesting. Well, we found this 1966 Opel Rekord wagon. Cheap? Check. Interesting? Check. I'd never heard of an Opel Rekord. Evidently, they were common in Europe, but not imported into the United States. This one was brought back to Utah from Germany by a serviceman who had been stationed there in the 1960s. They drove it until the early 1980s, when they parked it under a tree for nearly 40 years, until we got it. The floor was completely rotted out, the engine was seized, it was missing parts, along with a whole host of other issues. In order to get this thing on the road, we were going to have to do some major surgery. We started looking for something that we could swap in a complete drivetrain. Even though we had given up on the idea of getting an Eagle of our own, we still liked the idea of having a four-wheel drive wagon. After a little research, we realized that a first-gen two-door Pathfinder would be perfect. Number one, we could get it for cheap. Number two, the wheelbase was within a 1/4 inch of the wheelbase of the Opel. Score. Once we got both vehicles in the shop, the first order of business was to cut up the Nissan. We stripped out all of the interior, removed the hood, doors, and fenders. Then it was time to start cutting away as much of the body as we dared. We removed as much as possible while leaving the floor and the firewall intact. Remember, the Opel floor was completely shot, so we needed to keep the Pathfinder floor. With the Nissan stripped down, it was time to switch places and bring in the Opel, but not before a little joyride. For testing purposes.
Not in that thing.
With the Opel in the shop, we took stock of exactly what we had to work with. This thing was deluxe. With the interior cleaned out, we started unbolting everything we could. With that done, we welded in a bunch of bracing so we could begin cutting away the floor and removing the body from the frame. With the body cut off, we rigged it up to the hoist and slowly pulled it free. This was a huge milestone in the project. It was awesome to see the body hanging free and ready to be fitted to the Pathfinder. With the body off, we decided to have a little fun with the unneeded chassis as we pulled it out. Now at this point, I should tell you where the name Pigeonrat comes from. I was trying to explain what we were doing with the Nissan and the Opel, and Amber says, "Oh, you're making a pigeon rat," like the episode of The Simpsons, where Hugo sews a pigeon and a rat together. Well, I guess we are, so the name stuck. With the Opel running gear out of the way, we pulled in the Pathfinder and began mating the two together. Once we got the windshield and the B-pillars cut out, we were able to position the Pathfinder underneath the Rekord and see how things were going to line up. We quickly realized we weren't going to be able to keep anything forward of the windshield of the Rekord. And we also had to cut out the complete A-pillars on the Pathfinder. We needed to keep the A-pillars on the Rekord so that we could hang the doors. It took quite a few test fittings and cutting away a little here, a little there, to get the body to sit where we wanted it. But with the right amount of cutting and welding, we finally got the body to sit exactly where it needed to be. We still had a long way to go before we got everything welded together. One of the biggest issues we ran into was with the wheel wells not lining up. Although the wheelbase was very close between the two vehicles, it was not the same in relationship to the firewall. We were going to have to move the rear fender arch on the Opel to match up with the Nissan. With some careful cutting and some patch panels, we managed to match the wheel arch with the Nissan's wheel well. We even managed to add a step to help with roof rack access later on. With that sorted, we moved on to the A-pillars. Mating the Rekord A-pillars to the Pathfinder firewall took a lot of time and fabrication of patch panels. It took a lot of pieces to get it all done, but in the end, it turned out great. With those two major obstacles behind us, we welded up the rest of the body to the floor, and with that, these two vehicles were officially one. Now it was time to put the Nissan interior back in. Luckily, that went together fairly smoothly since it was all still bolting to the same floor pan. The Rekord body was slightly narrower than the Pathfinder, so we did have to do some trimming around the dash, but other than that, everything fit together pretty much like a glove. Next up, creating some mounting points on the Pathfinder front end to mount our Rekord fenders. Well, I got the fenders all installed. Looking good. Good and solid. And nice door gaps. No problem there. Oh, and just for shits and grins, installed the old Opel horn. Nice. With the fenders and the rest of the front end bolted on, we were ready to take it out for our first test drive. After a few more long days and nights, buttoning up all the little issues that were left, we were finally able to hit the road. When we built the Pigeonrat, we expected it to be a one-trip toy that we would trash when we were done with it. we were way wrong. Over the next couple of years, we've taken this thing everywhere. The Gambler 500, beaches, mountains, mud, snow, slick rock, everywhere. It even got invited to the Salt Lake Off-Road Expo. And it's been to a few other interesting places as well. Although it's not a truck or blazer, this has become one of our favorite vehicles, and it's sort of our mascot now. So look forward to seeing more Pigeonrat upgrades mixed in with the rest of the truck stuff.